Joining us now is Victoria Arbiter, royal commentator and author of Queen Elizabeth II, an icon of modern monarchy. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. The royal family, of course, attended an Easter Sunday church service at St George's Chapel in Windsor with a notable absence, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Do we know how he spent Easter?
Hello to you, and thank you for having me. Well, I think Andrew spent a very lonely Easter at Sandringham. He has been waiting for his cottage to be completed. It's quite a downsize, as you know, from where he was living in Windsor at Lodge, but I think it will have been a particularly sad Easter for the former prince. He was at Windsor last year with the rest of his family, as was his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, but indeed a notable absence, and I think an appreciated one.
It's also been revealed that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor once allegedly became embroiled in a physical altercation with a senior aide working for Queen Elizabeth. It's claimed that the then Duke of York attacked Vice Admiral Sir Tony Johnston-Burt, Master of the Household, because he was reportedly unable to fulfil his request to host an event at Buckingham Palace. Do you have any details of this?
Well, this is an extraordinary story, but really it does speak to quite what an odious man the former prince is, and his entitlement and his arrogance. This story's been included in a brand new biography that's coming out this week by Robert Hardman. He's a very reliable source, an incredible writer with very good contacts. So I think there's probably a lot of weight to this story. He says that he was told by a senior household member that when Andrew approached Sir Tony wanting to hold a pitch at palace reception at Buckingham Palace, he was told that there was no room on the schedule, no room in the palace, and that, like everybody else, he would have to wait. Well, Andrew was incensed when told this, absolutely furious. There was a round of expletives, but he didn't just jump his finger at Sir Tony. There was what was described as kinetic blow, which absolutely would have appalled those that witnessed the altercation. Prince Philip got wind of this story, and he was so horrified that he wrote a personal letter of apology to Sir Tony. But I think it's all these stories that paint this fuller picture of the former Duke of York and speak to the fact that he is so disliked for very good reason.
What about Fergie? Because Fergie's reportedly been going to extreme lengths to stay hidden. According to the Daily Mail, she's been on a secret sofa surfing world tour and staying at homes of a succession of discreet, wealthy friends, and apparently has 3 phones. It seems as though Sarah's friendship with Andrew is also, of course, under strain at the moment as they each kind of grapple with the Epstein scandal.
I think Fergie is quite sensibly remaining undercover. If she wanted to be seen, she would be seen, but she hasn't been seen in public since December when she attended the christening for her youngest granddaughter, Athena, daughter of Princess Beatrice. And yes, as you pointed out, there's been a lot of speculation about her whereabouts simply because she hasn't been spotted. So talk of her sofa surfing with wealthy, discreet friends. I would expect if they're wealthy friends, they probably have a bedroom for her rather than a sofa. But with these mobile phones, she's said to be so scared of being tracked down that she's juggling burner phones, rotating through several of them simply because she doesn't want to be seen. Friends have also described her as being very nervy and very low, and one can understand why. She hasn't been implicated in any kind of criminality, but the latest tranche of emails that were released from the US did paint a pretty sordid picture in terms of the depth of her relationship with Epstein. She was showing the public one thing, showing contrition for having maintained a friendship with him. And at the other end, she was privately writing to him and saying, so sorry, have to say that to save my reputation. So I think she's really quite terrified about how she might be received. And so it's perhaps trying to build up a little bit of confidence and will choose the right moments. But I think certainly for now, the York brand is incredibly toxic. And so it's probably quite sensible. One of the few sensible decisions she has made.
It's interesting with the York brand being so toxic. What about Beatrice and Eugenie? Because they, of course, did not join the royal family for Easter, as they have in many previous years. So what does the future hold for these two?
Well, these two as well are keeping a very low profile. They actually were with the royal family at Sandringham over Christmas. Some people had suggested that they wouldn't be simply because Andrew and Fergie were off the guest list. But the king is very fond of his nieces, and I think he recognises that this is incredibly challenging time. They're trying to maintain a low profile. They're trying to keep out of the controversy surrounding their parents. But there have been some questions as a result of these emails we just mentioned that speak to them perhaps being a little bit more involved with Epstein than we have been led to believe. They have their own families to protect. Beatrice in particular is said to be really quite shattered about everything that is happening. She's a family girl at heart. And so I think by remaining out of the spotlight, that is a concerted effort to try and separate themselves from the appalling activities that have been conducted by their parents. There's been talk that they might be seen at Royal Ascot over the summer in the UK. I'd be surprised if they were, I think, because they know that their presence is going to overshadow the rest of the royal family and only further the conversation, further their connection and what they might have known with regards to their parents. And so I think certainly for now, the princesses are going to remain out of the spotlight. And again, much like their mother, probably a sensible decision.
And how would you describe Prince William? He has been described as running a ruthless or having a ruthless streak, who isn't afraid of freezing out those who are disloyal, I should say. How would you describe the future king?
Well, I think ruthless is perhaps a little harsh. I think more that Prince William has always been very clear where the line in terms of trust and loyalty lies. He's always been a very good judge of character. And yes, you're absolutely right. There have been articles this week describing his approach as ruthless. But I think it's more rooted in the fact that he is wanting to maintain his sense of peace, but also wanting to ensure that he is surrounded by people that he can trust and people that are loyal, not just to him, but to the institution of monarchy, because as a future king, it will eventually fall to him to protect that institution in the same way his father is doing, and in the same way his late grandmother did so successfully. So yes, some of the suggestions or some of the people that have been suggested that he froze out the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. Justin Welby was known to develop quite a close relationship to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex into the lead up to their wedding. And so William probably quite sensibly wanted to separate himself from that. Tom Bradby is another one. He's a well-known journalist in the UK. William gave him his very first interview with the Princess of Wales just after they got engaged. Tom Bradby conducted that. But you may remember in 2019, Harry and Meghan spoke to Bradby when they were in South Africa. That was the first time we heard directly from them talk of princes going in different directions, following different paths, Meghan expressing her sadness as a member of the firm and her lack of support. And I think for William, that was probably quite a betrayal, considering he thought Tom Bradby was a friend. He didn't like seeing somebody further this narrative. So I think really it's William being not quite so ruthless, but probably quite sensible in terms of who he's keeping in his circle.
I want to get your thoughts on the King. There's been backlash to the King's decision opting to not give an Easter message this year. The royal family shared a post on social media celebrating Easter Sunday with an image of a cross with a graphic reading, "Happy Easter, he is risen." But what are your thoughts on this decision to not give an Easter message?
I am so glad you raised this, because this really has been a storm in a teacup. This outrage started building online Thursday, Friday. Easter Sunday hadn't even rolled around. But we have to look at the broader picture here. The late Queen was a devoutly religious woman, and throughout her 70-year reign, she only gave one Easter address. It was audio only, and it was delivered in April 2020 at the height of lockdown. Churches across the UK were closed. It was delivered as an opportunity really to afford people a sense of hope, people that weren't able to go to church. In 2024, the King delivered an Easter address, but it was part of the Royal Maundy service. He wasn't able to attend because he was undergoing cancer treatment. Last year, he gave a written reflection. There is no precedent, there is no tradition, there is nothing that dictates the King has to give an Easter address. I suspect a lot of these people driving the outrage probably haven't set foot in a church in years. So I think the King was rather unfairly criticised here. Yes, he did. Across social media, the royal family shared an Easter message on Sunday. He's not going to rise to this kind of bait, and it will pass. But I think people do need to look at history before they get caught up in the outrage.
Very fair point indeed. Now, King Charles and Queen Camilla will be meeting US President Donald Trump again later this month. There's a state visit to the US is confirmed by Buckingham Palace. But, of course, the King is not expected to meet with Prince Harry. What can you tell us?
He won't be meeting with Prince Harry, but simply because this is a state visit. This is the most important type of visit that the King can ever undertake. It is going to be his first state visit to the US. And the purpose of this visit is to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence. Now, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this visit as well, with huge numbers of people across the UK saying the king should have cancelled it. Well, it is not up to the king. He is a constitutional monarch, and as such, he has to follow the directive of his ministers. Prime Minister Keir Starmer wants him to go. The king has to go. But this is where we're really going to see his remarkable powers of soft diplomacy exercised. As we know, President Trump is enamored with all things royal. He's been quite critical of the UK in recent weeks, and he has somehow separated the king from Keir Starmer. And I think the president is going to be very keen to afford the king the same level of hospitality that he enjoyed on his second state visit, an unprecedented second state visit for a president. So the king will be there conducting official business, hoping to smooth the waters before going on to Bermuda, his first visit there and the first to the island as a reigning king.
Now, Prince Harry, the man who demands privacy, apparently sent a string of Facebook messages to a journalist in which he joked about drinking her under the table. This is according to court documents. He nicknamed the Daily Mail reporter Charlotte Griffiths Sugar and signed off his playful messages with several kisses. These messages emerged as part of his privacy case against the paper's publisher, Associated Newspapers Limited. What more can you tell us about this?
I think really Prince Harry finds himself in a bit of hot water here, and some might say this is a situation where recollections may vary once again. This case against Associated Newspapers includes 7 high-profile claimants, one of which is Prince Harry, and it is a last-ditch concerted effort to hold the newspaper to account for alleged unlawful conduct in terms of obtaining private information. But in January, when questioned about Charlotte Griffiths, Prince Harry said that he had met her once at a party. As soon as he found out she was a member of the press, he cut off all contact, and that none of his friends knew she was a journalist. For her part, Charlotte Griffiths refuted that story, saying that Prince Harry first reached out to her on Facebook in December 2011. He provided her his phone number, and a string of quite flirty messages ensued online between the pair. The flirty messages are by the by. Prince Harry was a single man at the time. That is not the issue. The issue here is that he perjured himself in court. He gave unlawful information, inaccurate information in a case that is seeking a huge amount in damages. And so this really does bring the rest of his evidence into question. Now, it is going to be up to the judge ultimately to decide how he feels. And I think this judgment is going to take a very long time. But yes, as you point out, this string of messages was not just a one-time occurrence. It stretched out over 2 months. We then cut to June 2012. Charlotte Griffiths and Prince Harry were at an all-night party. They exchanged telephone messages and a telephone call the next day. So I think Harry was really quite foolish if he thought that this information wouldn't come out through discovery.
And well, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are coming to Australia, and to see Meghan at this retreat that she's involved in, well, people will be forking out thousands. What do you make of Meghan Markle's work, if we're going to call it that, here in Australia?
Well, they're coming here, according to their reps, for private, business and philanthropic endeavours. And let's face it, the couple do have to earn some money. But I think where we're going to have to be very cautious in terms of how this visit is approached. They are not here representing the British government. They are not representing the King as Australia's head of state. And this is a very fine line. These visits that they undertake are seen as quasi-royal tours. At first, we understood that they were just going to Melbourne and Sydney. They're now going to Canberra as well. There have been suggestions that there may be interactions and engagements with members of the public. That is going to become complicated as well. As I'm sure you know, there was a petition that was launched online. I think it's garnered around 38,000 signatures from people saying that they don't want the Australian taxpayer to be funding any of their security. Well, anytime there is a big crowd, whether it's a protest, a football game, a royal engagement, if there is a large crowd, there has to be a security presence. But I think the most important element for Harry and Meghan on this tour is going to be how they're received. They need this to be positive. They need to get positive headlines. And I think because of that, it's going to be tightly controlled with friendly journalists in attendance.
It'll be very interesting to see. Victoria Arbiter, royal commentator and author of Queen Elizabeth II, an icon of modern monarchy. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.
Thank you very much.